Welcome to Every Night is Game Night, your home for heavy strategy, awesome theme, and everything in between. Check us out along with other great podcasts at DicetowerNetwork.com.
Every Night is Game Night, episode 82, Beyond the Hotness, and a discussion of the fear of missing out. Hey everybody, welcome back to Every Night is Game Night. This is episode 82. I'm Anthony, once again here with Jason.
Yo, my peoples, what's up?
All right, and because we had so much fun last week, we have Kevin Erskine back with us again to talk about some Beyond the Hotness games.
Thanks for having me, guys.
So before we get back to Kevin and the Beyond the Hotness, we have our weekly Kickstarter spot that we are experimenting with. Liz Davidson from Beyond Solitaire is going to talk about an item that might be of interest for you strategic gamers out there.
Hey gamers, this is Liz Davidson from Beyond Solitaire, and I'm back as your Kickstarter correspondent. This week, I'm going to be talking about an exciting project for those of us who love a good puzzle, the Tramways Engineers Workbook. The original Tramways is an Age of Steam-inspired board game with its own flavor. It's all about route building, with a bit of deck building and hand management thrown in. The original game is going to be reprinted with this Kickstarter campaign, so if you missed it the first time around, this is your chance. The Tramways Engineers Workbook, however, is its own thing, and it looks perfect for solo gamers who want to play anywhere, whether on the couch or on the go. The Engineer's Workbook contains a series of increasingly difficult puzzles that can be tried and retried using dry erase markers on erasable pages. You can play competitively against another player, but in solo mode, you can work to beat the designer's high score. The game is puzzly, but it's not long. A typical game should last about 30 minutes. If you love puzzles, optimizing your resources, and feeling like you've truly mastered a challenging game, then the Tramways Engineers Workbook may be for you. Happy gaming.
All right, thank you, Liz. So let's get back to Kevin, the master of games, the master of the top 100 list. You could probably go to 500 on that list if you wanted to, right?
I don't know. Not solo.
Anyway, so we did this with Anthony and Francis from Ant Lab Games a little while ago. Whenever we have a guest on and they are happy to stay on for 2 episodes, which we're recording them on the same night, we like to pick their brains. Every single one of us as gamers knows of we call it Beyond the Hotness game, a game that like no one's talking about, but it's excellent or it's fun or it's, just something that, we're always looking for that kind of hidden gem game. It's like, okay, the suggestions happen. Let's play One Deck Dungeon. Let's play Friday. Let's play Gloomhaven. Okay, we get it. What are some other games that people can play? So we have a short list of 4 games that we are going to share today. Games that maybe you haven't heard of, but you'll have fun with. So I think is it okay if I lead off, guys?
Sure. Yeah, go for it.
All right, let's do it. I have a game that I actually reviewed, did a written review for on the website, BoardGamersAnonymous.com. There you go, Anthony. There's your plug.
Yeah.
There you go. That is BoardGamersAnonymous.com. So the review I did was for V-Commandos. This is designed by Thibault de la Touraine, published by Triton Noir out of Quebec. So small publisher, not a lot of, this isn't exactly one of the hype games. Even when it landed, I think it landed in like 2016, and I just haven't heard a lot about this game at all. But it's really good. So it's a game set in World War II. It is World War II game, you think like a shoot 'em up game, but not quite a shoot 'em up game, not like a tactics, dudes on a map, shoot 'em up type game. It is a cooperative stealth-based mission game where you're going to play commandos from different allied countries doing a bunch of missions. So the game comes with a bunch of tiles depicting indoor and outdoor landscapes, and you can arrange them in different ways depending on mission cards. And you get a lot of missions, 26 different missions, 26 different layouts, and a lot of like guidance to like make custom layouts so you can kind of like increase the replayability from there. The missions are all different. You might go in and you might sneak in and plant a bomb, or you might, have to go in and rescue a guy, rescue a colonel and escort him out towards the trapdoor. A lot of different ways in order to approach the gameplay here. But really, though, the core of the gameplay, no matter what you're doing, no matter what mission you're going to do, it's a stealth game. And I am a stealth lover. I don't know about you guys, but I love Batman. I love Deus Ex. I love Metal Gear. I love any game where I can like sneak around and like, watch the enemy pathing or whatever, and just like, knock them out one by one. In a video game, I'll like lay all the bodies together and I'll let like the other guards freak out and I'll choke them out while they're freaking out about unconscious bodies. You can't do that in this game, but that's kind of that's me as a gamer. Oh well. So in stealth games, you're doing a lot of pathing. You're doing a lot of like, luring enemies, all that kind of stuff. You don't really do that in this game. This game it kind of errs on the side of simplicity. Stealth is a die roll. Like if you enter a tile with an enemy, you have to like roll a die. And if he sees you, he sees you. If he doesn't, he doesn't. He's there to be killed. But I don't mind that. I really don't, because I get that they're trying to go for a simple, accessible experience of a stealth game. But and even with that, it does give you that puzzly feeling of like, okay, the enemy's going, and they're going tile to tile to tile to tile, and then more enemies are spawning. You see where the spawn points are, and you have to kind of gauge where can you go. So that's the stealth game feel, where it's like, okay, the enemy is gone, let me go now. And it's really exciting. Eventually, you're going to get found. You can't go through the whole game. Most of the time, you can't go through the whole game stealth. Eventually, when you complete the mission, you're going to get found out, and you have to shoot your way out. But by that time, you've already hopefully set yourself up in a good position, and you're kind of like doing your thing. Again, I'm not going to explain all the gameplay. I'm just trying to explain how the game feels. I love this game. I really like it. It's very accessible. Lots of like different missions and gameplay. I just kind of like went through what I like about the game. I do have some niggles about what I don't like about the game. I wish it was a little bit more robust in the stealth end, and it wasn't just a die roll. But again, I get where they're coming from. I don't know if you guys are interested in that kind of gameplay. I know, Kevin, you're like a dungeon crawler guy. You like to kill your stuff. Does the idea of like a stealth gameplay appeal to you?
Probably not. Yeah, I'm more of the if you kill it, it can't sneak up on you kind of guy.
Yeah, in this game, you will not. If you even try to beat all the enemies, they will overwhelm you, because when you set off the alarm, it's double spawns, and there's already a ton of enemies out there. And the enemies are like, there's no minis in this game. Maybe there should be. I'm not sure. But like, they're all represented by chips. And like, soon you're going to get like overwhelmed by these enemy chips all over the place. You're never going to win. So you have to really be good about the stealthing and the pathing. Very puzzly, but not puzzly in that like, how do I beat this monster type of way? How do I get through the mission type of way? Really cool. I can really recommend this. So you go ahead and read my review on, once again, BoardGamersAnonymous.com to check it out. That is V-Commandos. Can't recommend it enough. All right. So now that I've given my thematic game, you know what happens on every night is game night. Anthony has to give his strategy game.
Yes, it's in the bylaws.
When we set up the podcast, now we're 82 episodes in.
It's all balanced. If you guys go back and count them all up, it's all balanced. That would probably not, but yeah. So I'm going to talk about Troyes.
Oh, that is Troyes, Troyes, right?
Yeah, this is a game actually that was out of print for a long time. It was decently hard to find. It just recently came back into print, and that's when I discovered it. And I think maybe it was a Z-Man publication. It has something to do with Asmodee. Finally, they pick stuff up. They want to print it. They want people to buy it. So it is now available for the masses. At least it was, a few months back. But this game is a dice action selection game. This is one of my favorite types of Euros. I like dice being used as action selectors, as long as there's enough ways to mitigate the dice, in which in this game there is. So the basic idea of the game is you're going to control your own dice, but then there's also ways to purchase other people's dice, which is one of the reasons people say this is such a mean Euro. It's not really a mean Euro. It all kind of balances out, but it seems really mean the first time you play it if you're playing with other people. So anyways, at the beginning of the game, you're going to have 3 different locations, and they correspond to the church, to the military, and to the merchants. And you will start the game with a certain number of your own workers in these locations, and those are the dice you get. You get to choose where you go. It's kind of a drafting mechanism. Then you will roll those dice. Those dice are available to everybody, but if you use them, they're free. If you use someone else's dice, they cost money, and you have to pay that person the money, which is important because you can take any die in the pool, and there are 18 of them on every round, but some of them could cost you money. And the more dice you take to take your action, the more they cost each. So important to kind of balance that out. Lots of different things you can do with your dice. You can combat the event cards that come up, so just kind of taking out the enemies. Put cubes on the cathedral for influence, put out new workers to take new actions in the future. There's 9 activity cards that are going to come out throughout the game you can kind of activate. And each of these is different, which is kind of cool. The base game comes with a handful of different activity cards, so there'll always be different in every game. And then the expansion, which I'll talk about in a little bit, has even more stuff you can kind of add in here and kind of mix it up and have different action spots available to you at every point. This is a super puzzly game, and you can kind of min-max just about every move, which I always enjoy, but because other people can take your dice, can buy them, can use their own dice when you're about to buy them, there's always there's enough interaction here. It doesn't really feel like you can solve it, right? Never mind the fact that there's dice. There's also some negative points here. You can lose points by not going to the cathedral or some of the other actions you can take. So it can be fairly cutthroat at times. Now, the solo variant of the game, it's made by Shadi Torbey. So that was surprising to me. I didn't realize that. He's not actually credited on BGG, but it's on the solo rulebook that comes with the expansion, which is Ladies of Troyes. And that expansion was even harder to find for a while, but they reprinted it at the same time. So pick them both up. And this is a solo cheat bot. So you get a guy named Leroy, and he starts the game with 12 workers and will pool all of the dice for all of his workers every round and put them in order by number and color. And we'll just kind of run through them and use them as actions come up. So when you take the bot's turn, you roll 2 black dice, you add them together, you look at a chart, you decide what action you're going to take based on that chart. Boom, there you go. The cool thing about the solo version of this game that I really like is that while it's kind of a high score race, there is a loss mechanism here. So at the end of the game, you subtract the bot's score from yours to determine your final score. It can be negative, obviously, if he has a higher score than you, and then you lose. The highest score you can get here, or at least the goal maximum score, is 20 points, which is decently difficult to get. And it doesn't really push as hard as like an Automa. So it doesn't change the game enough that you're feeling like you have to completely change your strategy to win. You're not being pummeled and beaten down every time you try to take an action. You can kind of play the game as you would normally. And you have to think in terms of how things are different, because whereas normally you'd have one ultimate scoring goal, in this one you have 6 because you pull out all 6 character cards, which will score throughout the game. But otherwise, you just play the game normally, which is pretty cool. The one downside, the turns can be kind of long. You have to roll the dice for the bot every time they take an action, which is 5 to 10 times per round, and there are 4 rounds. So, which would be one thing, but then there are 11 possible options when you roll 2 dice. So you have to check that chart every time. Eventually, I figure I would memorize it, but I haven't played it quite enough to get there yet. So I just have the rule book right there and kind of reference it every time. But in general, I mean, in my opinion, it's a really cool take on this solo bot mechanism. It works really well for this particular game. Not surprised, given the pedigree of the solo designer here. And I like it quite a bit. It's surprising I hadn't heard more about it, and probably just because you couldn't find it for a while. But now that I have it, I sing its praises where I can, including right here. So
that's right.
That's Troyes.
So, Kevin, is this another game that we will not interest you in the slightest because it's outside of your taste?
I heard Euro and I almost blanked out.
Sorry to make you sit through all that, man.
No problem.
So tell us about a game that you are into.
Well, okay. Every year when I make my top 20 for the People's Choice thing, the one game that goes on there that I know is never going to make the list because nobody else plays it is a game called King's Armory.
What? I've never heard of this game.
Yeah, it's a guy by the name of John Rott designed it. It's if you look at it, it's a tower defense game. And one thing I like is that you have tiles either in a 4x4 or 5x5 grid of tiles where you put the entrance at one end and you put the castle gate at the other, and you can make the path go any way you want. So, I'm not feeling very adventuresome or whatever. I may make a path that's going to make these monsters go up and down and around and, all over the place before they finally get to the gate. Or you make it so that there's splits, there's forks in the road. And so when the monsters come out, if they roll an odd or an even, they go one way or the other, and then they have a yellow or a red path they'll follow. So it could be that if they are odd and yellow, they are going straight down the middle for the castle gate, which means you need to really get on them fast. Whereas some of the other monsters are then going to take the circuitous route, and you don't worry about them as much. You start off with some number of heroes. I like playing with either 3 or 5. As you when you play the rounds, the first round you only have 3 monsters, so you mop the floor with them, and you're done with it. The second round you'll get 5 monsters, and then 7, and then 9, and then 11. So those later rounds, there's a lot of trouble on the board coming at you. Between rounds, though, you get reward cards which give you money, and you can buy hirelings. So let's say you're playing one character and you've got a fighter. Well, I might buy a mage and an archer that I can stick in a tower, and so they can help me a little bit. Because each of the monsters usually has a vulnerability to one of either melee, ranged, or spells. So you want to attack them with the right thing. Some of them are completely immune to one type. You can buy equipment for your heroes. You can upgrade your hirelings so they can get different levels. You can buy a cleric. She can heal. She can get one action, heal someone for 1 point. By the 3rd level, she's doing an area heal every round, every turn. So she's healing people a lot as long as they're within 2 squares of her. You can buy upgrade cards, which are just reinforcements, they're called, which could be anything. Some of them are minor, like heal, repair the gate for 5 points, or they might do 4 damage to everything in a 3x3 area, which, if you think of how I described how the monsters come out, you get 14 or 11, 13 monsters on the board. There's going to be some packs that are nicely bunched up for you. And the ultimate upgrade is you can buy one dwarven artifact from them that is usually some kind of massive weapon that can help you. Because in the 7th round, the boss comes out. So you've got all the monsters. The second turn of that round, the boss comes out, and he's usually really nasty. You don't know which one you're going to get. This game it's not deep. It's not a difficult game. You literally like to pull the monsters. There's level 1 to 5, and you've got to chart the first rounds. You're only going to get level 1 and 2 monsters. By the 7th round, you're getting a lot of 3s, 4s, and 5s, which are much, much more difficult. But you roll a dice, you look at a chart, and it says, okay, a 5. So I grab a 5 monster out of the 5 bag, and I put him on the path he's on and start moving him. And if they're in range, they attack. And an attack is nothing more than, okay, he's going to do 3 damage. You roll the dice. If he's higher than your defense, you take that much damage, minus your defense. When you attack, when you use your skills and things, it's the same thing. I want to attack this guy. I've got 4 actions, so I'll roll the dice, and I hope that one of those 4 or all 4 of them hit, and I take a point off, and I just keep doing damage to the monster. There's more tactics to that. Some guys can tank, so they can stop a monster from moving. Some of the monsters are flying, so you can't tank them. Some of them are unstoppable. Some have siege weapons, so they don't do you any harm, but they'll just stand there at the castle gate and shoot it forever until you take them out. This is the kind of game I love. I'll play the first 3 rounds quickly, and then the next 4 through 7, I might set them up, and then I go do something else. And the next day I come down and I play the round, finish it, get my rewards, buy new stuff, and then roll the dice to set up the 5th round, put out all the monsters, and then I go do something else. I'll come back to it the next day. It's one of these games when I look at it on my shelf, I'm like, I think I'm going to play that again. It just makes me smile. It's fun. It's not thinky. It's not puzzly. I mean, there's tactics. There's definitely tactics to it, but they're light. It's one I could play with my grandkids. You can get a hero killed if you're not paying attention, but for the most part, it's not terribly hard. It's not necessarily easy to win, but it's not hard to play. Like I said, it's a guilty pleasure. And I hear they're coming out with more stuff for it, which I will buy instantly.
Wow, this is getting expansions for a game never even heard of? That's amazing.
Yeah, it's been a couple years it's been out, but he said maybe people keep bugging him about it. And if you look at it, another thing, the art is questionable. It's not great art. I hope John didn't draw it. I'll feel bad if he did. I've talked to him a few times, the designer. He seems like a great guy. Yeah, the art's not good, but it's almost cartoony in a way, and it fits. It's fun.
So when I see co-op tower defense for like 1 to however many players, I think Castle Panic. Am I in the right ballpark there, or is this I have something else that's different?
The pathing is what makes it so neat. Because you could, depending which way a monster is going to go, you can just flat out ignore him because he's going way over to one side of the board, and then he's got to come back, and then he's got to loop towards the gate. So in the meantime, you concentrate on the ones on the other side. And there's some rules. Your hirelings can't go too far away from these towers. And you only get, depending on the number of players you're playing with, you get so many towers you can put down. You can't hire an infinite number of hirelings. So there's limits on everything you do. The more players you put down, the more you add automatically to the dice roll. You get more rewards. So you can scale it up. But no, it's not like Castle Panic because there's no cards. It's in a way, it's almost simpler. You literally, on your turn, you have 3 actions. You move and attack, or attack and move again, or move, attack. I mean, that's it. There's no other real. Some of the mages have a couple other little skills. Each character has some unique type of skill they can do, but for the most part, it's move and attack, and it's just simple and fun.
All right, thanks, Kevin. That is exactly the point of Beyond the Hotness, to tell us about games that we'd probably never heard of. I'd certainly never heard of King's Armory, which, and I'm a cooperative aficionado, so that's definitely one that has slipped through the cracks. So appreciate that. This last game I'm going to talk about is Salvation Road, designed by Michael Kelly and Peter Gusis, and published by Van Ryder Games. So full disclosure here at the beginning, I am friends with Michael and Peter. They are over at Co-opcast, and we have the cast over here. I've been a guest in their pod. I think they're really cool guys. So it might be a little bit of bias when it comes to this review, just to kind of put it out there ahead of time. But I do think that it is a good game and worth a look. Basically, the game is a cooperative survival game in a post-apocalyptic setting. So I think that this is probably what Dead of Winter could be as a pure co-op. You can play Dead of Winter as a co-op. You could take out the hidden traders and all that stuff, but it's actually kind of a flat game without that hidden trader spice in there. What this game does, it takes a lot of what you're doing in Dead of Winter and kind of smooths it out, adds a little bit more mechanisms in order to promote like actual cooperation, and gives it to you there. So if you've ever wanted to play Dead of Winter co-op, you want it to have that kind of experience of like, you're near death the whole time, you're afraid of every card pull and everything. This game will probably give that to you in a cooperative / solo sense a little bit better than Dead of Winter would. So you as players, everybody's in a apocalyptic setting. As I was saying, you're being attacked by marauders. You're not being attacked by zombies. So this is not necessarily a zombie game. So a little bit more on the realism end. As a player, you are going to be controlling 2 characters. So the 2 characters are kind of fun because one of them is a hero and one of them is schmuck. In the sense that one of your characters is going to have this like cool ability, and be able to do stuff, and the other character has a drawback. Every time they do something, they kind of mess things up. So one of my favorite pairs is there's Rosa, which is the fighting, battling, able to fight off a lot of marauders character. Followed by Rashid, who is screaming and drawing more and more attention to him, which is a terrible thing to happen in this game. So that was a pretty cool dynamic over there. So every person at the table who is playing, and if you're playing solo, you're going to be playing 4 characters, basically 2 pairs. You start at a compound and you're going to visit locations, just like in Dead of Winter. So like you go to locations and you're trying to dig up stuff, right? So you need medicine in order to keep yourself healthy. You need food in order to keep fed, fuel and food and guns and all this kind of resource gathering stuff. When you hit a location, the locations in Dead of Winter, they're like these big cards. In this game, they're like Polaroids. Just to kind of give a sense of, maybe that Fallout sense of, okay, the time stopped at a certain point when the apocalypse hit. So when you turn the card over, you get to, you'll flip over a separate deck and you'll be able to generate resources randomly. So fuel or food or whatever it is. Gather that stuff. You are trying to manage the short-term needs of your party against the long-term need to hit quote-unquote Salvation Road, which is a little track at the top of the board, which is a series of cards, and you're going to need X amount of resources in order to be able to travel the road. Mostly fuel, but you're going to need a little bit of food, a little bit of medicine, all that kind of stuff. So you're managing that short-term, long-term. That's kind of the essence of a lot of cooperative games. Like, there's crisis that you have to deal with in the middle, and then the long-term is you have to gather this resources to go. What is a short-term crisis? Okay, so that comes in twofold. So you're going to play, and you're going to hit all the locations, and you're going to gather stuff, and you're going to try to, get stuff together as best you can. Then you have enemy phase, in which you're going to roll dice, and you have to defend against marauders at the different locations. Then marauders will kind of show up around the compound, also complicating things. So that's usually involves some dice rolls, and that's where a character like Anna, or like the having bullet things around is going to help you out. Then you get to the Apocalypse deck, which is the event deck. And the event deck is what hits your characters. So it's going to say famine event, who has food? If you don't have food, take a bunch of wounds. So a war event, you get a whole bunch of marauders that come by. And if you run out of the marauder pile, you lose. If two of your characters die, you lose. There's a lot of ways to lose in this game. So that's what you're trying to do. So like in Dead of Winter, it has that crisis deck. You kind of see what's coming. And there is a beginner mode where you can turn over the Apocalypse deck and see what's coming. That's not the way to play. I'd like it better face down, so I don't quite know what to get. I get surprised, so that's pretty cool. So yeah, you're just kind of doing that. It's a resource management game. You're trying to mitigate that crisis that's going to hit you every single round. You're trying to weather the storm. You're trying to take those wounds. And all this while, you are trying to lay out that track up top, that scout. You're trying to scout it out, trying to find out what you need, trying to find out how much fuel you need. You know you need fuel. You don't know how much you need unless you go to a certain location and you scout it. So that is the tension. That is the back and forth. I like the back and forth. I like the way that those two things balance. My favorite part of this game is the characters. I really love the interaction of the characters. Creates a lot of story, creates a lot of mood, creates a lot of theme, where you have the bad guy or the schmuck who's just running around causing trouble, and then you have to use your good character in order to kind of balance what they're all messing up. You can make a lot of stories out of it, so I remember who Rashid is and Rosa is and all that kind of stuff, so it made an impression on me that way. So that's the best part of the game. You will hear criticism of the game that it turns a little bit samey, just a bit. So like, you go and you gather. You only have two actions in a round. It's usually move, gather, gather, search, or whatever it is. So it's pretty on rails a little bit. Whatever powers you get, they're not separate powers. They're just kind of like additions to your basic actions. So that's a little bit of a drawback that I saw. But for the most part, a game creates a really good feeling of, you don't have enough. It creates a really good feeling of like crawling to the edge of the finish line with barely any resources. So if you like that kind of game where you're just crawling to the end of the line, managing resources and just getting over the finish line just as best you can, this might be worth a look for you. So that is Salvation Road. So that's 4 games that we've been playing. I think it's like Kevin was describing. I think the same is true for you, Anthony. When you're in the mood for something and you don't want to play a Hotness game and you don't have a Hotness game available to you, and it's something that's just kind of sitting on the shelf, you're happy to pull these out. You're happy to just like play them again. It's like, okay, I haven't played this in a year, but I don't want to give it up because I want to play it now. How many games in your shelves are like you buy it and it just sits there and you don't kind of want to pull it out again,
Way too many. Yeah.
But Anthony, you'll pull out TWA, right? Every once in a while?
Oh yeah. Yeah. No, it's like I said, it's dice action selection. There aren't a lot of games that have that and do solo well, and it does. So when I feel like that kind of game and I want to play solo, this is one of the ones I go for.
So we wanted to connect a little bit of a discussion with this. So in the spirit of all these older games that we're doing, that we're playing, how do we deal with the newness? How do we deal with when new things coming out? And they're coming out all of the time. Like there's always a new Kickstarter. We are guilty of it here at ENGN because we would do the preview series and we have Liz that's talking about the preview episodes and all the new Kickstarters that are coming out. You got to do it. That's what people want. So we'll give it to you. But how do you guys deal with that whole FOMO thing? How do you guys deal with fear of missing out when you, first of all, I let me not assume that. Do you guys feel that like pang of FOMO whenever you see a new game come out?
Yeah, pretty much. It's difficult, and I didn't feel like this before. Not even after starting the podcast necessarily, but like the deeper I got into the hobby, the more I would be like, well, I see all these things, I'm able to get them, I'm privy to all this information ahead of time, I want to make sure I get this. And it's becoming less and less common for a game to like show up and then disappear for 5 years. But that was also a thing for a while. So you could, if you did miss a game, especially like the types of games I like in particular, it might not come back for a very long time. So there would be a severe fear of missing out. Like, oh, that Euro might be really good, but if I don't pick it up, they only made a few thousand of them and they won't reprint it. I have to remind myself that's not really the case anymore. So Most things do get reprinted. And there are so many games that even if it doesn't, who cares? But yeah, it's definitely there.
I think I'm the opposite. I think I used to be like that, but a lot lately, something Anthony said a few minutes ago, I look at my shelf and I see all these games that I don't really want to play anymore, but I've got a lot that I love. And so when I see new games coming out now, I'm like, well, is it better than this? Does it look better than this? Does it look better than that? And the answer most usually is no. And then, and I'll be wrong, like Spirit Island I passed on and it came out and it's amazing. And so it got reprinted and I bought it. And I'm getting more and more to the point I'm backing a lot less Kickstarters, especially expensive ones. And I look at it and if, the game eventually, I don't mind if it's that great, I'll buy it off someone 5 years from now and I'll play it. I'll be behind the time, but I can live with that. And so, yeah, I don't really feel it like I used to anymore.
I'm glad you mentioned that in terms of like, if you don't play it, if you wait to play it like 6 months, a year, 2 years, however long it is, you'll be fine. I think a lot of people are not fine, which is kind of the idea, right? That's like you have that fear of missing out. What are you missing out on? You're missing out on A, Kickstarter exclusive. We can probably have a whole separate conversation about that. But B, with a game that comes out and like there's videos about it and the people are playing it and it's in your wheelhouse. Like I can miss a Euro, I can miss whatever it is. But if someone's playing a hot cooperative game, I'm like, I can't.
But I think too many of them have come out that have been, and so I thought they looked great. The idea sounded great, and I got the game, and I'm like, it's not the greatest thing. So there's been a lot more disappointment. Not that they're bad games; it's just that they're not really that much better than something I've already got.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's important too. Like, think about like the biggest, most explosive Kickstarters from the last like 2-3 years. Your Gloomhaven, Seventh Continent, Kingdom Death. They all got reprints because like those small initial prints, people are like, oh, by the way, this game is amazing, and they're like, well, now the demand's high enough, so we'll print it again. Like I look at my shelves, and there are not too many games I can see here that were on Kickstarter, never got reprinted, and are amazing and worth being reprinted. I'm like, why are they doing it? You can always look at a few old ones like Glory to Rome or something like that, where for various reasons it's never going to happen. But most of the time, if people want it, they'll make it.
So what do you think about that? What do you think about, like, I saw a thread about this on BGG. So obviously, BGG people kind of go back and forth and it spirals into like ad hominem attacks. And it's like, all right, I'm not reading this anymore. But like, I think that the thread was that when these games come out and like you see a whole surge of people playing them, and if they have like the exclusive stuff, so like when a game, you get the retail version and it's not as good as the Kickstarter version or whatever it is, and I maybe I'm seeing a little bit less of that, except from the CMON, which is always going to be guilty of that. Do you just like, want to shake these people and say, kind of snap out of it, or do you like look at them with the hoary kind of ages of wisdom and go, oh, okay, you'll grow out of that at some point?
Well, I'd have to grow out of it first before I could tell them that. I still backed Batman. Not like I don't like.
Oh, you did it!
Yeah, like I don't have the willpower that I talk about.
Yeah, if a game looks like just something that's so perfect for me and it looks like it's got something new, I'll definitely back it. And I'm glad to get exclusives. I'm glad to get extra stuff. Fortunately, I don't suffer from completionism. So if I'm missing something, I'm okay. Especially because I found a lot of times the extra cards or extra promos or extra figures aren't as good as the ones that are, part of the base game. Now, sometimes they are, but a lot of times they're not. And it's like people are going crazy trying to get this one figure or something. And it's like, here, you can have mine.
Well, you got Kingdom Death Moth, and what'd you do? You sold all the minis, right?
Yeah. I basically got it for free, effectively.
Yeah, if you're really smart about that, because Kev over here backed the Kickstarter for Kingdom Death, put all the minis together, and gussied them up and sold them out. So that was pretty smart on your part.
Yeah, I mean, I left them on the spruce. I started building, and I'm like, this is ridiculous, and so I sold them for 2/3 of the price of what I paid for the entire game, plus the extra stuff that's still coming.
Yeah, for me, I am like kind of in between in the sense of like I can resist some things, but there's other things where it's like, oh, I really got to get it. What really kind of gets me about FOMO is when a company generates FOMO, like they kind of generate scarcity in their games, or they say, okay, you have to back it within this week or two, or this, or they'll ship it out, and it's like really, really slow coming to retail, and it really kind of gets me how companies sometimes, I'm not going to say all of them, sometimes it's like shipping stuff and distribution stuff and everything. But I think like FOMO is one of those things, and I'm looking at you, so, certain bigger companies that I think they're trying to generate the fear. Like they're trying to get gamers to feel bad about missing a game, and they'll buy it because they feel bad because of it. And, you could say, yeah, rationally on a rational level, it's like, yeah, just buy things that make you happy or compare it to your other stuff. There's always going to be that little voice in the back of your head that says, oh, I really don't want to miss this. And it just kills your rationality. Like I could tell people, like let's say a tornado's about to hit. And I could tell people till I'm blue in the face, oh, it might not be that bad of everything. But if they're afraid the tornado's going to hit, then they're going to clear the shelves and just buy everything in sight. It's just the fear takes us over. And I know it's not the same thing. Like fear of missing out is like this soft social fear, but it's still fear, and it's still buying things for a negative reason as opposed to a positive reason. So I don't know. Am I being too cynical? Am I being like too distrustful of some of these practices that get people to buy games because of a negative reason as opposed to a positive one?
No, I think that's business, right? I mean, anything you can do to get the sale. My counter argument to that, though, I've seen a lot of games that do that. They say they're not going to retail, and they don't, and they do stuff, and then people buy the game, and then they come out with version 2, and they fix rules, and they fix this, and they fix that, and then so it's almost like if you just wait for the second, if the game's good, wait for the second Kickstarter, it will have better stuff, fixed components, and you have to wait a little longer, but it'll be there. I can't think of too many games lately that came out, were amazing, and never got reprinted, never got Kickstarted. Unless you feel like you have to be one of the first, I don't get it. Yeah, we're a little different there, I guess.
Well, I guess in terms of the exclusives, I mean, that's more of an exclusives argument. Like if you miss a certain, rare card or rare figure or rare mode or whatever it is, then I think you might be a little bit boned.
Yeah, and you got certain companies like CMON that don't do reprints, and yeah, they do go to retail, but they're one of the worst when it comes to all that exclusive stuff. So
right, yeah, I get that. If the game's good, you typically want more. But I've only got a few games that I thought, like Sword and Sorcery is one I got where I've got all the extra characters. Now they're going to sell them eventually, but the base game just didn't have enough. The extra characters really made a big difference. So that's one I'm glad I got them.
Yeah, so you just proved the point.
Well, no, it does happen, but it's rare and
Okay, exception proved the rule, I guess.
all right. Fair enough.
So then, I guess just to kind of wrap it up a little bit, like I think dealing with FOMO, I think it's a real thing, but it takes a certain type of waiting it out, being patient, and knowing that if you do wait it out, the chances are that you're going to get a better game if you wait it out. And you first of all, you're going to get the game because any game that's worth a salt is going to get reprinted. And second of all, the chances are they're going to get reprinted. And probably the chances is better now more than ever. I think, Anthony, you're totally right that like games used to kind of come and go. You had to like jump on them while they were there. But now it's a little bit more likely that if it's a game is any good, you're going to get it. And just wait for the reprint. And that little tingle that you feel in the back of your amygdala, whatever it is. As much as I really hate that companies really have to press that buy button in order to get you to buy, at least it's kind of there. And if you don't like that comfortable feeling, I guess just you don't have to succumb to it. If you wait, you might get a better thing.
And I think also you're going to miss some, and you're going to have something you wish you'd gotten, and the first deal is the better deal, and you should have gotten it. It justifies all the fear. But something else will come out. Some other game will come out, and that'll take your mind off it, and you'll be fine, and life will go on. And, like Seventh Continent, I don't have. I'll probably never get. I probably like it, but, I never jumped on it, so I'll move on.
Come on down, man. I got a friend that has Seventh Continent. We'll play it. We'll play a game.
That's the other thing. You probably find people who do have any game you really want. Reach out.
All right, so that will do it for some beyond the hotness games and our discussion of FOMO.
Yeah. All right, guys. So that is everything for this week's episode. If you're light on budget and fearing missing out on all these Kickstarters, hit your back catalog and track down some of these hidden gems. But for this week, that's going to go ahead and be everything. Kevin, thanks again for coming on 2 weeks in a row, even. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, guys. I always have fun with you guys.
Awesome. All right, guys. So until next week, make sure you hit us up on Twitter at ENGN_podcast. Catch us on everynightisgamenight.com. We are also, you'll find us in the solo gaming group on Facebook, as well as over on Board Game Geek in the guilds. And until next week, go ahead and grab a solo game off the shelf, and let's make every night game night.
There we go.